The core issue is that sex is not the problem. You cannot work on sex to fix the issues around sex and your marriage. I know that sounds a little counterintuitive. Sex is not the problem. Sex is a symptom of a much bigger core issue. If you try to work on sex, which is what I did, what my husband and I try to do in our marriage, it makes it so much worse. And it's such a nightmare, and it makes it such a bigger problem than it actually is, because we're not working on the right problem. The problem is the emasculation. The problem, or where the issues around sex stem from, is the emasculation of a wife, or the emasculation of a good man by his wife. That's the core issue. That's what has to be worked on. And there's a different solution for that for women than there is for good men. But that's the reason why your wife has lost interest, is she's emasculated you and she's no longer attracted to you. So you're not going to get her attracted to you by using these tips and tactics that other influencers are teaching. Like, you need to build your game back up with your wife, or play hot and cold with her, or build up the tension. That is really bad advice, because you're not working on the core issue to begin with. If you've been emasculated and weakened by your wife and you try to have game with her, she is going to annihilate you. If my husband, when we were at this point in our marriage, tried some of these things people are teaching, I would have been a total B. I would have been like, what are you doing? Because we're, again, sadly, from the emasculation, we're repulsed. And a good man who's been emasculated and weakened doesn't have the strength or confidence to do any of the things that these people are teaching you to do. And then they're putting it on you that it's your problem to fix. And we're not dealing with the right issue. Sorry, I get passionate about this because I feel for the men falling for this, and I feel for the women too, because I tried to work on all the technique and strategies with sex, and it just created a giant nightmare. We have to work on the core issue, which is the emasculation. So men, the best strategy for you, for your wife to potentially, there's a 50-50 chance for your wife to potentially re-engage with sex, is don't work on sex. You have to work on what are the weaknesses in me. This is your responsibility part, so you don't become a victim. And good men want this. Good men want a solution. They want to figure this out. They want to strengthen themselves. You have to look at what are the weaknesses in me that allows me to be emasculated by my wife, not for her sake, for you. It's not okay or right that she's doing it, but it's happening. So you have to look at, what can I do about this? So you have to look at, what is it in me that causes me to shrink down to my wife and give my power away to her, and that she can make me feel this big and just a shell of a man? What is that in me? Because what happens when you look at that and you learn to stand up for yourself and stand up to your wife in a responsible, respectful manner, and you no longer allow the emasculation to work on you, it doesn't mean she will stop necessarily, but over time, as you build that strength in yourself and you understand what's going on, it bounces off. And it's from that place, if you have an open-minded woman and she wants to look at herself and she wants to change, you start standing up to her in a responsible, respectful way, not necessarily around sex. I'm talking about all the small day-to-day stuff. Over time, when you don't buy into it and you stop trying to make her happy, and you understand you're not the source of her unhappiness, that's where she's likely to respect you and be attracted to you again. Because she knows that you'll stand up to her and you're not going to shrink down to her. And there's a way for good men to learn to do that in a responsible, constructive way where it's not a power struggle. You're not trying to overpower your wife. That will not work. And that's what I teach good men. I teach good men the constructive process to regain their strength, regain their confidence so they can stand up to their wife's emasculation in a responsible way that makes them stronger and allows them to know who is your wife. Is she willing to change? If you don't allow her to emasculate you anymore and it doesn't work, she will likely begin to respect you. She'll be attracted to you again. I worked on myself, and that's where we're going next is the solution for women. I worked on myself to no longer emasculate my husband. And then as my husband and I began to have a dance and he got stronger in himself, he began to stand up to me because I'm not perfect. I say that all the time. I'm human and I'm a woman and I'm not perfect. I make mistakes and my husband will stick up to me. And I find it hot. And then I'm attracted to him. I remember a few years ago, I was like, I've got the hots again for my husband. My husband's a really, really good looking guy and a wonderful man to boot. And it was like, oh, and it wasn't any sexual tactic that he tried. It's because I saw him as a man because he respected himself enough to stand up to me. The emasculation should never happen in the first place, but it's how we're wired. And it's the differences in my beliefs. It's the differences in how God has made us. That's our path to grow and learn and become strong in ourselves, both as men and women. But you have to work on the emasculation. Don't work on sex. It won't work. If you want a good example of why a good man trying to have game in his relationship to win back his wife and have her re-engage with sex, there's a movie called Hitch. It's an older movie. And Will Smith, ironically, teaches men to have game, like just good men, like good, just, everyday men that have trouble getting women. He tries to teach them to have game. And there's one guy, the main character in it. He's like, no, you got to kind of give Will Smith is teaching. You kind of got to give a sultry look and kind of like bite your lip a little bit. And he's doing it and you're looking all weird. And Will Smith's like, stop it. That's what will happen if you try those tactics. So I digress. I'll get on to the solution to women. So women, we have to deal with the root issue of why do we emasculate in the first place? Why do we emasculate our husbands and make them wrong and bad and make them so small? Again, it's a reflection of how we feel about ourselves and the unhealthy relationship we have with ourselves, where we are empty, we're disconnected, we don't feel good about who we are. We have to work. You don't have to work on sex. That was the biggest relief to me because I was trying to work on all the technique and sex and and it was, the more I did that, the more and more and more I just shut down and became more terrified of sex. So you don't have to work on sex. It was like the biggest weight off of me when I realized I didn't have to work on sex. Women, we have to work on the core issue of learning to feel good about ourselves and having a healthy relationship with ourselves, which I call the journey of being happy. And that's what I teach women. That's where we have to work. And that's the core issue we have to work on. So when we learn to be happy, meaning having a healthy relationship with ourselves, then sex and the issues around sex are really simple because you can know sex is just a choice. When you learn to enjoy sex for yourself, it's just a choice to open up to it and enjoy it. Because here's the truth. Sex is how you allow yourself to feel, not how your husband makes you feel or how a technique or a toy makes you feel. It's how you allow yourself to feel. And you have to do that by being open and remembering that you enjoy sex and remembering how you enjoyed it when you first met your husband. He's still the same good man. And then it's just a choice of, I want to enjoy having sex with my husband. It's so simple. If you allow yourself to feel and allow yourself to enjoy it, you will have pleasure during sex. The only reason that we would not enjoy sex or find it pleasurable, because there are some women, I'm talking to the women today who know they've become disinterested in sex and it's a chore and they don't know what's happened and they know they're not attracted to their husband anymore and they're trying to figure out why. There are a smaller fraction of women who say that they've never enjoyed sex. And the only reason that we haven't is because we've shut down to it. We've made it bigger than life. We've made it all these things that it's not. But when we come back to basics and just recognize it's simple and we enjoy it, and we were perfectly built and made to enjoy it, and we work on ourselves to be happy, have a healthy relationship with ourselves, feel good about ourselves, then we can learn to enjoy sex for ourselves. And it's just a choice. It's just a simple choice. And now that's, for me as a woman, I'm going to like break the internet by saying this is that I don't need foreplay. I don't need to be warmed up. I don't need my husband to do anything special or set the mood. It's just a simple choice. And then I'm ready to go. To me, that such a relief. It just pops the balloon of any pressure and making it bigger than it needs to be. And my husband and I have fun, and like I've shared a few times, better than it's ever been. And we don't need any special tricks or technique, or just me being me and being happy, and my husband being a good man, and life is good and sex is good. So that's how simple it is.